and welcome to Crafting a Revolution, the podcast. My name is Katie Freeman, and I'm one of your hosts. Every week, we bring you interviews with female and non-binary makers of all kinds from all over the world. Today's guest is Sadie Mae of The Awesome Orange. Sadie's story is pretty cool. I would say that she's been a maker and like just a self-made person, meaning like, she's basically taught herself everything from the get-go, whether it was about making or other work. So I think you can say that spirit is in her blood. So really great getting to learn more about her journey into all the things she does now, like YouTube and her blog and Instagram, TikTok, all like the social media stuff, as well as just like all the information she shares and plans she makes and fun stuff like that. So great time getting to chat with her, and I know you're going to enjoy this interview. Before we hop on into it, I want to make sure to give a big shout out and thanks to the patrons over on Patreon. So thank you so much, Lee at Lee Runyon, Annette at 513 Woodworks, Katie Thompson, Women of Woodworking, Kevin, Lefty's Woodshop, Christy Twisted Twine, Jeremy at Jeremy Speece, Sammy, Go Sammy Lee, Rachel, Moody Makes, Bonnie, Tool Mom Bonnie, toolmomstore.com, Laura, Oakley Soap Company, Brandy, Studio Obey, Lee, The Rainbow Carver, Ellen, Little Bear Furniture, and Ethan Carter Designs. Thank you all so very much for your continued monthly support of the podcast. All of that helps with all the monthly subscriptions it takes to get this podcast out so you all can listen and or watch. So it's very much appreciated. If you would like to help support the podcast on a monthly basis, you certainly can. Just head on over to patreon.com/crafting revolution. And you can check out the different tiers over there. Once you become a patron, no matter what level you choose, your name will get added to the list of thank yous at the start of every episode. If you would like to support the podcast, but not in an ongoing monthly way, please head over to Instagram and find at Crafting a Revolution, follow along, hit the link right there in the bio, and there's a way for you to do like a one-time donation to the podcast to help keep us going. All right, with no further ado, here is Sadie Mae of The Awesome Orange. Okay, so Sadie, I like to start by asking my guests to introduce themselves. Would you do that for me?
Yeah, I am Sadie Mae with The Awesome Orange. I live in Tempe, Arizona, and I started woodworking or making or trying to make 7 years ago. And I say trying to make because I had no experience whatsoever. I don't even know if I've used a drill 7 years ago, but so I've come a long way since then. And now I make all sorts of content, make all sorts of furniture, and it's been a fun journey.
Awesome. So we're definitely going to get to all of that good stuff, but I want to take a step back and like ask the broader, what is the story of Sadie Mae from like baby Sadie Mae and to like, getting to that 7 years ago point of like picking up, tools.
Okay. So I was born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So
no way.
Yeah.
That's like 30 miles away from me. Are you serious?
I know. Totally serious. So I'm an Iowa girl, Midwest girl at heart. We did move away when I was 5, so I don't remember a ton of Iowa.
Yeah. So do you remember cold?
Vaguely, not really. We probably didn't go outside much then when we were that little, but I don't know. But yeah, so I spent half of kindergarten in Iowa, and then we moved to Colorado, and we were there for just under a year because my dad wanted to move there because he wanted to live in Colorado and searching for jobs back in the day. And then that wasn't working out. So then we moved to Arizona a year later. And so from like first grade till forever, I've been here. So Arizona definitely feels like home. And yeah, feels like home, but I still have my roots back there. And then when, like, my parents, like, growing up I had a pretty dysfunctional, I guess, childhood. Because after that, once we moved here, my parents got divorced, and then we moved around quite a bit. My dad moved away back to Colorado. My mom got addicted to drugs. And so we were pretty much grew up by ourselves. And then I got married when I was 20 and been married in next month, it'll be 24 years that I've been married to the same person.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, just because people are always usually like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. We didn't have any children. We've had lots of puppies over the years and just started working. So my first job, I worked at a water company, and then I went into travel school, and I was a travel agent for 5 or 6 years. And that was an awesome job. I got to go so many different places. And I think every young person needs to travel and just see the world. I know it's a lot harder these days with all the restrictions, but just to open up your eyes to, how good we have it here, but also different cultures and different people and different foods and just so much stuff. It just opens your eyes to the world. But then I had my whole family worked at an AC company. And so they were always like in the spring and fall here in Arizona, they were not busy because the weather was perfect. So during the summertime, they work nonstop and then they have time off. And so then I was going to this 9-to-5 job and I was like, I want time off when these guys are out going to have fun. So then I was like, okay, I'll become a real estate agent because then I can be my own boss and do my own thing. And so I did that for 7 years. That was great. And then the market crashed in 2008. And then I went and worked for my husband's company, the AC company. And it was a family business, and then quit real estate and just kind of, that became my life for 5 years. I did all their accounting, marketing. We just really grew it. And then I was working like 50, 60 hours a week and hated it. I was feeling unappreciated and just, family dynamics, because it was dad started the company, the brother worked there, my husband worked there, my sister worked there. It was just like, I just had to go. So throughout that whole time, me and my husband had made a couple of investments with real estate because I was a realtor, but all of our houses, we kept pretty vanilla. And I never felt like I nested. I never had the kids. And so it was just like, once I quit, I was like, I want to nest. I want to make my house my home and make it mine. And so I had a girlfriend who was refinishing furniture, just like painting it and doing the whole chalk paint thing. And then I had another friend, he worked at a cabinet shop and he was actually going to make himself a dining room table. So I went with him to a reclaimed barnwood place, and he was picking out wood. And that same day I picked out wood for my dining room table. And it's funny because I'm actually just redid that dining room table this week. And I haven't even posted the content yet on it of it being refinished, but it's been a big full circle for me to do the first table I ever built. And then without knowing how to do everything and then rebuilding it the correct way and seeing it come full circle. So that kind of started my love of making with doing that. And then I just started making some stuff for my house. And of course, you post it on social media and people are like, oh, can you make me this? Can you make me that? And and I didn't know if this is what I wanted to do for a job. So I even, I went on some interviews to see like where I wanted my career to go. And then I read a book, The Work You Love in like 60 days or 90 days. I forget the title of it, but it's basically saying that I need to be an entrepreneur. So I'm not, working. I'm fast paced and all that kind of stuff. So I decided to start my own thing and just make stuff and sell it. And luckily from my previous job, I had a pretty good savings set up and I was able to use that to eat because I wasn't making money in the beginning for sure. Not enough anyway to survive off of. And then my husband actually quit his job at the same time, like about 6 months later. And so we were both starting over. So the last 7 years has been both of us starting new careers, finding work that we love, and growing a business. So it's been a struggle, but a good struggle, because you're building it for yourself and you get to reap all the rewards of it. And if you mess something up, it's your fault. It's nobody else's.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, though, even just like jumping right into, working when you did, it sounds like everything has been basically self-taught, no matter what career you went into.
Oh, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely a let's figure it out type of person. And I'm not always the person who's great at asking questions either. So it's just like, I just got to do it, because even with making stuff, my husband worked in the AC field. So he's very handy, very mechanical type person. But I don't like him telling me how to do it. I really like to figure it out. And sometimes that would frustrate him. He's like, whoa, just why don't you ask somebody how to do this? Because that's what he would do. And I'm like, no, because I need to figure it out. I need to know why you need to do the things that you need to do, not just do the things because somebody told me I needed to do the things. So I'm definitely like learning that way. And then of course, I do watch more YouTube videos and stuff like that than ask. And then, watch other people on Instagram has been huge. Just watching, they don't even have to tell me what they're doing. I just watch them do what they're doing.
Right.
And that has been so cool. Like stuff you never thought of, a tool you never knew existed, all those kind of things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think like with Instagram, especially, I'm not as big as at watching YouTube. And I think for me personally, like I probably would be, except for my thing tends to be like to sit down and consume longer content is almost impossible with the age of my children right now. Yeah. Like they're constantly like, mom. I'm like, it's just 12 minutes. Give me 12 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not a big YouTube watcher. So I only watch when there's something I need to learn.
Like a specific thing.
Specific task, like, hey, how do you make this joint, or how do you do this thing? And I'll watch those videos, but I don't usually watch it for entertainment. So I think that's been a really hard transition for me, because I was only been doing YouTube for past, I think it's 2 years now. So, and it took me a long time to get on the YouTube wagon because I never watched it. I never watched what other people did. I didn't understand it. I didn't, I was still figuring out how to make stuff, let alone how to video myself and share how to make stuff with other people. So I was a slow progression into YouTube.
Do you still, are you still doing like client work?
I just finished up a table and chairs and benches for a client, but that was my only client build or those 3 were my only client builds for last year. Okay. So I did start with all client builds, and now I still give proposals now and again, but I really ask a million questions to everybody. And I only take jobs that I think are cool and that I think would be good for content, or that maybe I can get a brand behind or something like that. Because to me, I couldn't charge enough doing client work to live comfortably. You could survive on it, but I also wasn't the type of person, because I work a lot slower. So I can see people who build a lot faster or know what they're doing can definitely make a lot more money than I was, but I just didn't foresee it being how I was going to make all my money. So
when did that realization come in about this? I don't want to call it the switch, but where content creation became maybe more of the business than the doing the work for somebody.
Well, definitely 2 years ago is when I started making more off of content than I did off of my client builds. But I think the first time I ever got paid for stuff was like when I actually heard people getting paid. I was like, well, I'm going to get paid. And I wouldn't take a whole bunch of free tools and stuff in the beginning, because I was like, okay, I knew about marketing, and I'm like, okay, I want to build my brand. I don't just want to take just free stuff because it's free stuff and it's cool and I might need that, but is that the brand I want to work with? So I was very conscientious of who I took stuff from and what I was going to use or need, or the brand and who I wanted to represent, which it's still hard because sometimes you just really want something. But I just knew, and then once I knew that you could get paid for it, I was like, okay, I need to build my business around that. And so that came to, okay, well, we need to grow our following so that more people recognize you, and what do I want to stand for? Who do I want to represent? Those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you, or do you, I guess, blog as well? Or did you ever, so is that where that kind of started? The content piece was around like your blog?
yes, so it started
Okay.
around my blog. So my blog was I was like, okay, I know I need to do this and have a website. But then again, that was a slow start. So I got the name and I was like all gung ho. And then I'm like, I don't know how to blog. What do I talk about? How do I write? What the heck is all this stuff? So I would do one here or there. And probably where it really started was I built a shiplap poultry bench. And that was so popular. Everybody loved it. It was my best piece, probably might still be my most popular on my website for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Piece. And about a year later, I finally was like, okay, I'm going to make build plans. I'm going to make build plans for these. I made some build plans. They started selling, and it was like, oh, I can make money. I can make money off my website, off of my stuff. And then I only had to make that build plan one time.
Right.
And now it's 5 years later and it's still selling, And so that was a cool realization for my blog and for stuff that's mine. And then from there, it was incorporating then brands to write those blog posts and share my projects. And then it just came super cool when you see people use your plans or go on your blog and they recreate stuff that you designed and that you made. It's just like, okay, that's cool. I want it. And they say, thank you for the plans. I couldn't have built this without these plans, or they make modifications to it, or they make it better than you made it. And it's just really cool to see, and it's rewarding.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one route, which is odd for me. So a little bit of my background is I got my bachelor's degree in manufacturing technology, and how I paid my way through college was with drafting jobs, AutoCAD, and 3D modeling and stuff. So I did that, and I'm still super proficient in it. However, it's odd to me, I've never been drawn to making things that lend themselves to plans. I mean, I know you follow me, and none of how do you make a plan for a power carving piece? If I ever figure that out, I might.
You're start with this block,
yes,
and then go from there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, exactly. So it's I just never gravitated towards making things that were where it's there's steps to it, there's a cut list to it, the whole thing. And which is just really odd to me, because it's I have this whole skill set. It clearly can make money. It paid my way through college. I should be doing this.
You're definitely probably more on the artistic side. So I was more on the functionality side, because I was like, okay, I want a nest. I want to make my house pretty. So what do I need? I need a coffee table. I need a dining table. I need this. So it starts with those boxes. And then now that I've gotten into some power carving and stuff like that, it's well, how can I make these boxes more pretty and add these textures and do all these things to them? So, yeah.
So just to stay on this thing with the plans, are you still putting out plans then to pieces now?
Yes. So my latest one was the counter height stools. My goal is to get one new plan a month. I think I did 10 last year. So I think I was pretty close to that goal. But it's fun to see people using them. And it's something I make it the one time, and I can continue making money on it down the road. And it's kind of like a passive income.
So with that though, are you starting to incorporate with those plans things about suggestions of adding texture or that kind of stuff? Or do you keep the plans just this is how you build the thing?
I do add suggestions. So I made like the bubbly bar cabinet was probably the first textured piece that I did. So I
Mhm.
was like, okay, here's this. And then these are the burrs that, and I just carved it and gave a little, it was a step in the plan.
Right,
So it wasn't like I had a blog post and a YouTube video that gives more detail on the carving
right.
part of it. But in the plans, it was like, okay, now this is what my design was and how to do it and the tools that I used.
Mhm.
I've done my king bed, my bed that I have,
Yeah.
the headboard carved, and so I'll give the same information on what tools I've used, the burrs and all. So yeah, I think I encourage people to do it because it just adds that extra special personality and touch to their piece, and they
Mhm.
can make it their own too.
Right. So I'm thinking the time frame you said you started YouTube like 2 years ago. So that's
Mhm.
like pandemic era. And
Yeah, maybe two and
I'm
a half. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
curious because like I think actually I think I've had YouTube longer than I have had Instagram, and I started both like right around when I started the business.
Hmm.
Um, and this isn't full time, so I've never been able to get up to like really kicking out the content like
Yeah,
a
it's
lot,
hard.
especially on YouTube. Like Instagram is a little easier to click out like the short stuff, but like long
Hmm.
form video, just it takes forever to edit all of that.
Trust me, I know. I'm not
Yeah.
proficient in it yet.
So, but I had only projects on there for a really long time before starting to add podcast stuff. But I noticed like I was doing okay, for like a small YouTube channel.
Mhm.
And then the pandemic hit and it went to like zero.
Hmm.
And I realized like pretty much everybody, unless you were doing like home reno stuff, like
Hmm.
almost everybody I've talked to, their YouTube went to like trickle, like a
Okay.
very small trickle. So I wonder, did you feel the same, or because you were creating furniture pieces, were you still getting like
At
decent traffic?
the very beginning of the pandemic, so that's kind of like when I was ramping up like YouTube, and what I know, I didn't notice that I had a couple of videos do very, very well,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of them do barely anything.
Yeah.
It's pretty much how my channel is right
Yeah.
now, is like I have like 3 videos like making it for me, and then the rest of them are just keep putting them out, keep putting them out.
Yeah.
um but at the beginning, so I didn't see any like super huge growth or anything during the pandemic on YouTube. I did notice like when the pandemic lockdown first happened, like I
Yeah.
think in March or April or whatever it was, my plan sales skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So I had like 3 or 4 months where it was just like, I'm making normally like $400 a month, and it was like $1,200,
Yeah.
and you're like, because people were just buying them and building stuff and doing things. And then that switched the year later, they went way down because then lumber prices were up,
Yeah.
and then nobody was buying anything to make
Right.
anything. So it has been these weird swings throughout
Mhm.
the pandemic, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, given your kind of like, you're an entrepreneur and you're, I mean, you just learn on your feet anyways. Like, how have you been able to like pivot or plan during this kind of crazy time?
Good question.
The answer could be I haven't.
Yeah, that's something I should really think about doing more often. No, I just kind of like make my plan and stick with it. So
Okay.
I've had Instagram's been really, you see people like grow super fast.
Right.
And I've got a great following on Instagram, but I've been a slow growth person.
Mhm.
I've never had any like really big jumps. I've had lulls. Like actually, 2021 was my slowest growing year on Instagram. I think I got less than 5,000 new followers,
Mhm.
and I've been doing it for 7 years, and I'm only at 70,000. So it's not like I've like had some crazy
Right.
year or anything. So I've just learned to just keep doing it, keep
Mhm.
doing the stuff. And I'm still making sales. I'm still making brand deals, and people are still making my furniture. And, so it's like, you got to look at you gotta sometimes try not to look at everybody else, which
Yeah.
is the hardest thing to do.
Yep.
And just look at like, what am I doing? I get to make cool stuff. I get to work on projects around my house. I'm still making money. And, as long as you're still having fun, then that's what it's about. And you don't have to be, there's always going to be somebody who has
Yeah.
higher numbers than you. So as much as you can still see that, and it can be frustrating at times, just enjoy, it's always the saying, enjoy the journey. So enjoy the process, the everyday of it. And that's what you're gonna, not the destination, and you'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm growing at like snail's pace, like half a snail's pace.
It's really about, the hard thing is it's about consistency.
Yeah.
And posting a lot regularly. And so when I first started, when I was growing the fastest in the beginning, that's when I was posting 2 posts a day.
Yeah.
Now I'm down to 1 post a day, and I still miss days, but my goal is just 1 post per day. But I know if I were to ramp that back up to 2 posts per day, I'd probably start growing faster. But now my business has YouTube. Now it has a blog. Now it has plans. Now it has all sorts of stuff that it's just pretty much impossible to make it all good and do that extra.
Hey makers, today's episode is sponsored in part by toolmomstore.com. At toolmomstore.com, you can find any and all tool-based merchandise for all genders, all sizes. They've got mugs, they've got shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. I have one of the shirts myself that has the hashtag woodworker on it. And I also have a couple of the mugs that define what and who is a tool chick. So super excited with the merchandise that I have. I know that you will be satisfied as well. And also great discount for those of you who listen to the podcast. At checkout, if you enter the code MAKERMOM, you will get a 20% discount off any of the merchandise that you buy. So that's just toolmomstore.com. All right, let's head back into the action. Well, and so I've followed you for a while, and we met at WorkbenchCon. I don't even know what number, maybe like the second year, I think, is when we met in person. So I've followed you for a while, but I would say like I didn't necessarily like seriously start consuming a lot of your content until TikTok. And I saw like the stuff you were putting out on TikTok. And then, I've seen the trickle, you know what I mean? Like I've seen the crossover between the two, but have you seen like better success with TikTok?
I was doing really good with TikTok for a while. And then I just completely stopped using TikTok because it was just, I can't handle doing one more thing. And so I've slowly my goal for this year is to get back into it and share the stuff over there. It was just, I was like, okay, if I can't do everything good, I'm just going to drop one thing for a while. I'd rather create the systems. I'm all about systems. So how can I make this easier, but still keep, the quality of stuff? So my goal again for this year is to learn how to batch content and get stuff planned ahead, because I've always been the day of, here's my post for today. Here's my post for tomorrow, And so then it's that stress of it's 5 o'clock. Have you posted yet? And it's like, my husband, we're getting dinner ready. And I'm like, oh, wait, babe, I've got to post right now. And then it's just like, you're pushing people away, and it's like putting something before that. And it's like, I don't want that feeling. I want to have it, before, and then, or create my post in the morning from the day before, at least just something that I haven't been able to get into a rhythm yet.
No, I definitely feel that pain like majorly. I too, I still post on TikTok, but it's like really far and few between. And like I said, YouTube, I post regularly on there just because I post the podcast on my YouTube channel for people to watch as well. But beyond that, like actual projects on there, I think I did one last year. And I just decided, I was like you, I was kind of like, okay, I think I was trying to like oh, you need to have everything, right?
Mhm.
And then that was spreading me so thin, and I don't feel like I was actually producing like good content that was like
Mhm.
valuable to anybody, because I was just trying to like throw stuff out there on
Yeah.
everything. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on Instagram.
Yeah. I-
And that's been beneficial. And so now it's like, okay, what have I learned from like all the
right.
trends in Instagram? Now I need to kind of relearn what's going on in the TikTok world, and like,
Mhm.
those kind of things. Because it's like, yeah, you can't do it. You can't do it all, especially when you're just one person.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't do it all. And it, yeah, I don't know. What was I thinking? Oh, and I think with content too, I'm definitely not a perfectionist. So that's one thing that I would say to people is, because there's some people, I don't want to start YouTube because my videos aren't going to be as good as so-and-so's. And,
Mm-hmm.
I record all my YouTube videos on my iPhone. I edit on iMovie. My videos aren't the best like cinematography,
Right.
but if you want to come there to learn how to build this bench, you're going to learn how to build a bench,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's how I consume YouTube is I want to go there to learn something. I don't need to go there for the entertainment value per
Right.
se. So I'm learn. So I'm like, I just need to get content out there. And as I get used to making that, then I'm going to get better at telling the story. I'm going to get better at getting the extra shots and the B-roll and that kind of stuff. But to me, it's like I learn as I do. So I just have to go for it and be okay with this content not being, what other people are doing.
Right. Have you always aimed your content like from the start at teaching? Like, have you always felt like that's what you wanted to do with your content?
I think so. It was more, and I wouldn't even call it teaching. It was more sharing
Okay.
because it was like, okay, I just did this. This is what I learned, or this didn't work, but this did. So it was, I still have a hard time with acting like I know what I'm doing. So when people are like, well, you should teach a class, or when you actually come down to it, you should teach that. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, I feel like I'm more sharing what I'm doing and sharing how I do it. And with woodworking, there's so many different ways to do something, and everybody has their opinions on what's the right way or what's the
Mm-hmm.
wrong way. And to me, it was always about creating the thing and creating a piece that you like. So if you like it and it has pocket holes, it's an awesome piece.
Mm-hmm.
If you like it and it has dovetails, it's an awesome piece. So it's just
Right.
like finding what works for you. And I enjoy making stuff out of pocket holes. I enjoy challenging myself to have no hardware in a piece. I've done that a few times. And I don't know, yeah, so not really teaching, it's just trial and error, sharing. But I do need to get better at owning that I know a lot more than I think I know,
Mm-hmm.
and being more confident and feeling that I can share that with people.
I guess, yeah. Why do you feel like you don't know enough to share?
Because I think that's the comparison game. Like you're seeing so many other people and you're like, oh, well, they're doing it more awesome. And they made this and they made that, or they have this tool, or they have this sponsor, or they have that. And it's just like, sometimes you're just like, oh, there's just so much. And that's where a lot of times I have to step back and not consume as much content of everybody else's stuff. And when I sit back and do me, that's usually when my best pieces come, because then it's something that I like. And when you're building stuff that you like, your audience, I think, really recognizes it. Even if it's not the best piece in the world, just the way that you talk about it, the way that you
Mm-hmm.
share it, the excitement behind it gets people excited, and gets them interacting with you a lot more,
Yeah.
instead of like, hey, I whipped out this bench and who cares, I'm going to sell it tomorrow
Right.
type thing. Then they don't care. But if it's this
Right.
piece that's going in your house and you love it, they're going to love it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So I have to ask, because I'm a power carving geek. So how did you get the bug to try it out?
I don't even know who like I was seeing carve, but I was like, oh, I want to try power carving. Power carving just seems cool. And then actually Sabretooth reached out to me. I don't know if they saw my stories of me talking about it or what, but they wanted to team up, and I was like, oh heck yeah, let's team up. And so we teamed up on the actual bubbly bar cabinet. And from there, it was just like, yeah, this is cool. It's just like personality and sawdust everywhere. I hate the mess, but I'm always messy. My shop is a mess right now, but it's like art, it's like building a piece of furniture can be art, but it's more functionality. Whereas the carving really is more of an expression, or, to each one of us, it's a little bit different. And, some people like it really perfect. Some people like it more organic, and it's just fun to play with, and it's just wood. So you're not messing anything up per se.
Right.
You're just like, if you mess up, there's another piece, go get another piece. And if it was supposed to be a circle, well, now it's going to be a square because I messed up, it's just like, it's okay.
I mean, that's why I love power carving, and so I've been power carving almost for 5 years.
That's awesome.
And I had, all the tools, and the burrs and everything. And I was using it all for shaping and getting certain shapes. But I saw adding texture with the burrs by you first, the bubble.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, why did I never think of this?
The texture to me is just the best. See, I'm more of the texture than I am the shaping and the carving part of it. Because that to me is like, I've tried to do like a tiki mask and stuff like that. And it's just my brain doesn't necessarily go into 3D images to be able to carve that. And so I definitely need to do more like abstract type carvings, because I do have that plan for this year. I want to do a few of those type of things and just try it and see what I come up with. And if it's a pile of woo, then it is. But
it's real pretty when it burns.
Right. Like the end of the YouTube video, fire.
Yes.
But you got to try it, because if you don't try it and just think, oh, I could never make that, then you could never make that. But if you try it and you mess up, you might try again and you can get there. So that's what it's all about.
Yes. I mean, now that I've tried texture, I'm basically obsessed. There's going to be texture on everything.
That's what I look at with all my pieces. I'm like, oh, I'm making a candle holder. It needs texture. It needs texture. That texture. I like the shelves I just made. I didn't carve them, but I used a wire wheel, and I was like, okay, I need to add some texture to these, because it can't just be smooth. Who likes smooth stuff? Right. So
yes, I definitely feel that. And I would say, just so you know, I've been power carving for 5 years. It took me a very, very long time of that 5 years to be able to see the full piece before carving it, and to make it in, to know what I wanted to make it into. And I think that just comes with time. Still, all of my pieces are definitely super abstract. The one thing I have never tried, because I'm scared to death, is figurative work. I watch Cecilia, she started doing some of the trying to do she did the Grinch and stuff like that. And I'm I can't. I'm so terrified, because I'm no, because then there's something out there in the world you can compare this to and tell that I suck.
And see, I go by what do I like? What would I put in my house? Her Grinch was amazing, but it's also something that I'm not going to put in my house. And that's okay. That's what I have to think about with furniture when I was building it. It's okay, that piece was awesome, but I would never put that in my house. That's why you see, I don't work with a lot of hardwoods, or people are all excited about figured wood. And I'm I don't like that stuff and how it looks. I like the more plain, whatever woods. And so that's why in power carving, it came really cool, because it's I like the plain, I use a lot of alder, but if I add texture to it, I like the texture, but I don't necessarily like the grain movement in a lot of wood. So it's it's just finding you and what you like. And that's the cool thing about woodworking, because there's spot for everybody, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So many ways to do it, so many species, so many techniques, and
Mhm.
you just find you. And it makes me think back when starting the business, it was like, okay, I want it to be build loud, build wild. And that was the wild was, you don't have to follow the rules. You don't have to do it the same way that everybody else is doing it. Just be you. And if it makes you happy, then go for it. So don't let anybody make you do it a certain way. So that was loud. And then wild was just like, be proud of it, share it, use the loud colors, juice, this is who I am. This is how I do it, and like it. And I think that's where with sharing it, I've gotten like, a lot of people talk about how they get a lot of hate on Instagram or people mansplaining and stuff. And it's like, to me, I'm like, nope, this is how I do it. And this is how it is. And so I rarely get people doing that, because it's just like, this is how I do it. This is why I do it. This makes me happy. Pocket holes are cool. This is cool. I don't care. And it's okay to do it your way,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
do you feel like you straddle the like two worlds, like a DIY world and then like woodworker world? Do you feel like you're kind of like fitting in between both of those?
I do, because I felt like when I first started, I wanted to nest. So that's more of a DIY world, right? But then I started making furniture, and people like and do the more hardcore woodworking stuff. And actually my more woodworking stuff does better with my audience than my DIY stuff. But I want to do DIY stuff because I want that. I still haven't completely fully nested.
Right.
My house isn't exactly how I want it. So I'm like, that's another reason I called myself the Awesome Orange, was because when I first started, I had no idea if I was going to be good at any of this stuff. And I just wanted to be able to, I didn't want to be Sadie's Woodworks and be like, I don't do woodworking, I just do DIY. I wanted it to be just about my journey and building awesome stuff. And that was another reason, because I was like, everybody had titles, like when you first start Instagram and your profile, and it's like, well, I'm a woodworker, I'm a DIYer, I'm a this, I'm a that. And that's where I kind of came up with woodworker, because I'm like, I'm not a fine woodworker. Am I even a woodworker? Because, I'm not doing all this stuff. And so I was like, well, I'm a woodworker, and I build awesome stuff out of wood. So that can be DIY, it can be anything. And it just kind of gave me more of a confidence. Like, I have my space, this is what I am, and I can do whatever the heck I want within that. And then it also came to give other people that and make it feel cool that women can do build stuff,
Right.
And I never felt unwelcome in the woodworking community by men, and they've always given me great tips, but that was just my way of being like, I want other women to know that it's cool and it's very rewarding, and that they want to try it, they can do it. And even if it's just them not waiting for their husband to hang up a picture,
right?
Because I'm like, why in the heck are you waiting for him? Do it yourself.
Yes.
I mean, it's nice that they do it for you, don't get me wrong, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And you can learn how to use a hammer or a drill and saw and all that kind of stuff, and go for it.
I feel like, especially through this podcast over the years, I've really learned, I guess, about like, they are kind of different worlds, and like different, they're made up of different people. And so like, I definitely feel like, in the DIY space, like, I feel like women are just as equally like represented, versus like woodworking, especially like fine woodworking, they're still hugely underrepresented, let alone any other diversification from like the old white guy. Beyond that, like, there's just not a lot. And so maybe that's why. Do you feel like, I'm curious if you feel like you have maybe had the responses you've had in the social media spaces, like, do you feel like you're seen as more of a DIY type space in the sense of like you are self-taught, right? It's not like you went to like school to be a fine
Right.
woodworker or whatever.
Mhm.
Do you think like other people put you in the category and therefore like you don't get as mansplained?
So put me more in the category of a DIYer.
Yeah.
No, actually, I think more people think of me as a woodworker because and I only say that just because more of those posts do better
Yeah. Yeah.
and more of my teaching woodworking stuff does better than when I show DIY content. And that's the only reason. And and I do see that the category of more fine woodworking and stuff is, like you said, the old bike guy or whatever. But
Yeah.
you know what? I don't like that kind of furniture and I don't like that kind of stuff. So that doesn't bother me. They can have it. I'm gonna do the things that I think look cool and build them the way that I like them. And I have my space and I'm okay with that. So if people like fine woodworking, then I say go for it and make those pieces no matter who you are.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to make the things that I want because I like them.
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm not, I mean, that's why I struggled. I mean, I've always enjoyed working with wood, like always, no matter how I'm doing, like whether it's more of like a traditional method of making furniture or my power carving method, like I've always liked that. But I did always struggle, in the time that I did take some like official woodworking classes and stuff. I was always the person that was like, okay, you are supposed to make this rectangular thing. And I'm like, how can I make it curved? How can I because I'm like, it's just not my like shaker style furniture and stuff. I was like, that's just not me. Like, I do not like, I don't dig it. Yeah.
I don't either. So it's like, make what makes you happy. And if what, but it's funny because I will go from making, an all woodworking piece to let's do an IKEA hack. And you know what, that makes me happy because I don't have all the money in the world. Like I've told you, we were, struggling and growing a business, and it's like, and I still want to nest. So it's like, I don't have a ton of money or time to sit here and make this thing complete. But if I go buy some IKEA cabinets and then I, dazzle them up and make them pretty, that makes me happy. And it was cost effective and it was the time worked with my schedule, then I'm going to do it that way, so it's not about and some of those posts do my best. So those might be the DIYer side peeking through, but those are on YouTube those on you, the IKEA hacks on YouTube do the best. So not necessarily on Instagram. So it's like, what platform are we talking about? But yeah, it just goes back to me. It's like, do what makes you happy, fits within your budget with the tools that you have. Because like now I have a whole bunch of big tools, whereas starting out, I didn't even know what these tools were called or that they existed. So, but I still made awesome stuff back then. And so that's what I want to convey to other people is you don't have to have all this stuff. And that's a kind of a cool thing about power carving in the We Make Sawdust challenge that we started with Sabretooth is I wanted to get people like, you can have one tool, you could have a little Dremel with a couple burrs and a piece of wood, and you can make something really cool. And have it as a creative outlet. You don't have to make these big sculptures and pieces and we all start with that one tool. So let's get people trying it and they'll enjoy it,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've enjoyed watching others get into it, like even the last one you did, and like I had a super hard time choosing between like Carla and Hadil. Like both their pieces were just like phenomenal.
It was so close. The votes were like within under 10 votes separated them. It was nuts.
I don't doubt it because both their pieces are amazing. And I think that's what I've really loved seeing, and like I appreciate, I guess, about you using your platform in that way, just because like I said, I mean, I've been power carving and sharing for 5 years, and Like Cecilia's been doing it for a long time and sharing too. And, not that I don't think we don't inspire people, but I definitely feel like when you started your challenges and stuff, I've definitely seen more women pick it up. And that is just like so awesome to me because I think it is something that's like actually more accessible than like some of the bigger tools. Like I think it's way more accessible to feel comfortable and confident using a die grinder with some carving burrs than it is like a table saw. I just think that's just something that's more accessible. And I think it's just so much more enjoyable too. Than I'm not one who's going to want to like sit there and cut a bunch of the stuff on a table saw all day long. But if I get to get covered in sawdust with, my die grinder, I'm like all about that. So
it's just an introduction to me. It's like, you got to try stuff. And if it's an easy way, it's a friendly challenge so that, you got the competition that usually gets people going a little bit. You're going to push yourself out of your comfort zone. I know the two things that I did, it was like, okay, I got to make something with them too. What am I going to make that's cool? What am I going to make that's going to really showcase these things? And it's super fun. And it's so fun interacting and collaborating with the other people. And then the behind the scenes of talking to them and the lives, it just really creates a community of people that are sharing their projects and sharing techniques. And it just makes it a lot more fun. Buildings, I like to work by myself, but at the same time, it's so much fun to have those friends to talk to about it and, talk to you about work, because most people don't want to listen to you about content creation and blogging and YouTube. They're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so it's really nice to have people to do that.
That includes spouses, right?
Yeah,
like I still have to like encourage mine to be like, go on and like my shit. So other people will like say it.
My husband doesn't have an Instagram account. I don't think he's ever watched a YouTube video. So I was just like, whatever. Not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me.
That's right. Are you gonna be attending Workbench Con?
I will be there. Yes. Okay. So I'm excited. I love to go and see everybody. I'm just excited to see people.
I know.
But it goes right back to the woodworking friends and people that can relate, Yes. So we work by ourselves all the time, but those last 2 years Oscar knocking over stuff. But even more so the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It's been like alone working by yourself. So it'll be nice to get out, and it makes it feel real. I always get inspired and get a pump of energy, and I think we all need that and can use that. So it'll be good.
Yeah. Same here. I mean, I feel like most of us who do this stuff are probably naturally like introverted people. Like we appreciate working by ourselves.
Yeah.
But that's not to say it's like I still enjoy being around real people on occasion. Like, outside of just like conversations in the DMs on Instagram or whatever that might be. Yeah.
For sure. It's nice to have real friends to talk to about whatever it is.
Well, I will be there as well, and I'll be doing a power carving demo again. Hey. So you should definitely like stop in, especially if you want to try out a few different tools, because I'll be bringing my Manpa attachment. So if you want to like send some
definitely.
I
definitely have this year. I'm going to try out some different stuff and, kind of grow in that realm and see what's out there. So I'm excited about it. And I'm excited about, we're bringing back the We Make Sawdust Challenge. This time it's going to be in April. Okay. So I'm excited to figure out what that challenge is going to be. So if any of you guys have any suggestions of what we should challenge everybody to build, I'm open to that. We're definitely going to try this one to be a beginner project. And because once again, it's just getting people to try it. It doesn't matter like it's nice and fun to see, who's got this fanciest whatever at the end, but it's also the whole goal is to get people to try it. So I really want to get some beginners in there that have never tried it, and it should be really good. I'm excited.
So besides the, like, you obviously you're creating different challenges. I'm just curious, do you participate in any of the other like challenges out there, like Builder Challenge or any of those?
No, I haven't. I've wanted to. I think I did like the very first, like when they called it the Instagram whatever
Yeah.
thing. But I don't think I finished it on time because I'm slow. And then after that, it's always been, I didn't have time because I needed to make something that was going to make me money, whether it was be a client project or a brand project or whatever. So I've never had the freedom to, or extra time, because to me it's been a job and not just for fun. So it would be fun to do that, but I don't know if it's nerve wracking.
Yeah.
Like, oh, here's my piece. Judge me.
Yes.
Hard enough. I'm like against somebody else. Whereas when you put out a piece that you make and you're like asking for likes on Instagram, I mean, that's hard enough to ask for likes there. But when you're against somebody else, so I think it's really cool that when people do that, and I really try to make it so everybody, you know, if you try it, you're already winning in my book. So it's just about putting yourself out there and doing it. And even though it's weird, you're going to grow from it and it's going to be fun. You know, that's what I want it to be anyway.
I mean, I'm definitely with you. Like, I have not participated in any of the like different types of like challenges or, you know, competitions out there. And like, I watch them, I enjoy seeing what people like make from them. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. It's like, I want to participate, but I don't know, especially because I, you know, don't do this full time yet. It's like the time I do have for making something has to go towards like a sponsored project or like something I'm making for somebody that they're paying me to make. Like, it has to be towards something, you know, like that. And then if it's not, then it's going to be something for my own home. Like, it's not, so it's
just not something random. And that's kind of like with the challenge is I've been trying to get more and more brands on and create better prizes, because, you know it's a challenge, but people are taking time and they're building this thing. And I know it's fun and all, but it's still work. And so I want to make sure that they're getting something out of it. I'm getting something out of it. We're all growing, we're all learning, and we all have a good time. So definitely got some plans for that, more to encourage people to participate and make it worth everybody's time and just be fun for everyone.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Well, we're towards the end of our time. So I want to give you a chance. It did, see? I want to give you a chance though to let people know all the varied ways to find you and follow along with you.
They can find me at The Awesome Orange on Instagram, YouTube, my blog, TikTok, Facebook, and hopefully that's it. I don't know. But The Awesome Orange, you can pretty much find me on all the places.
Awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So again, that was Sadie Mae of The Awesome Orange. I'll include the links on how you can find Sadie and follow along with all the work that she's doing in the show notes for today's episode. The best places to find that is check the description of the episode on your podcast app. If you are watching this on YouTube, then check the description box down below. And lastly, you can head on over to freemanfurnishings.com/podcast and find the show notes for today's episode as well as all the previous episodes. Make sure again to follow along with the podcast over on Instagram at Crafting a Revolution. And while you're over there, you can say hi to me at Freeman Furnishings, because when I am not chatting it up with amazing makers, you can find me designing and making furniture and home decor and doing shop dances at freemanfurnishings.com and at Freeman Furnishings on Instagram and TikTok. Those are where you'll find me the most frequently. All right, so we will have 2 new live episodes next week. In the meantime, as always, let's go craft a revolution.
She, her, them, they got something they want to say. Solution for the toxic masculinities. Pollution is the constant evolution.